Hi, everybody. Uh, Thanks for joining this edition of with CISO webinar series. I'm Ami Lutuak, CTO, co-founder of Wiz. I'll be moderating today's session. Very excited to be here today. And we'll be having a 25-minute panel and then 5 minutes for a live Q&A. So please put your questions in the chat. So with that, I'm excited to be joined by a great expert channel, and we'll be sharing personal experiences, perspectives, and rather than trying to summarize the reasons why they're the perfect speakers, I'll let each of them introduce themselves. So, Caroline?
Hi, my name is Caroline Wong. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer at Cobalt. I've been in the information security field since 2005, leading security teams at eBay and Zynga is where I got started. I'm the author of Security Metrics, a Beginner's Guide, which was inaugurated into the Cybersecurity Canon Hall of Fame in 2022. I host a podcast called Humans of InfoSec, and I'm delighted to be here with this group today.
Thank you. Anil?
Thank you. Anil Sandhu. I'm the Chief Information Security Officer at Moniz. I think, Caroline, similar. 2005, I started working in security. I've worked predominantly in finance. At the moment, I'm very happy in fintech.
Thank you.
So, I'm William Burton. I am the team lead enterprise architecture and sec DevOps for Barclays. I'm super excited to be there, and I cannot wait to have a great moment with all of you guys. Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, perfect. So first of all, really great to have this great panel together. And just to get started, let's start with just rapid fire questions. So just describe your outlook on security in one word. And if you had like a magic wand to make everything easier, what would that magic wand be? So Caroline, you want to start?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and hop in. So my word is optimistic. And if I had a magic wand, then I would make it so that technical and non-technical people could understand each other.
Love it. Anil?
I was also going to say optimistic, and I have to quickly think about what I'm going to say. I'm going to use the word level. And if I was to have a magic wand, it would be to have the adequate amount of importance placed on security.
Yeah, mine will be partnership. And partnership, because if I had a magic wand, I think I would make security and development team to speak the same language. So like that everyone could focus on building awesome, super excited, secure software together. So that's it.
Yeah, I love it. Mine was simplicity. But yeah, with the magic wand, exactly the same, right? By making everything simple, having developers and security just understand each other, right? It always goes back to that challenge. So let's get started with Caroline. Like when you look at the dev team, like what are the top priorities for your dev teams, and what do they focus most of their time and energy? And like what do you often hear from developers when they work on this balance between speed and security?
Our dev team is absolutely obsessed with the customer experience. Our engineers are actually frequently interacting directly with customer teams, both to provide them with support as well as to receive their feedback on features that they've built. I think that, our dev team is also very much in step with our product management team, trying to design and build the newest features. Certainly, the dev team is concerned very much with velocity as well as delivery. The way that it works at Cobalt, when there is a trade-off to be made between working on, for example, a security-driven feature or change versus a non-security item, this conversation typically happens in our product council. I will also say that our engineers are always keeping an eye on technical debt, both spending some time to reduce it, as well as thinking forward in terms of how to not build it in what they're building today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But by the way, I always call it security debt. So you don't want to create technical debt. You probably don't want to create security debt. It's the worst type of technical debt because no one ever wants to fix security debts. So just make it secure from the beginning.
That's right.
So Anil, what are your thoughts on this?
So yeah, I think I agree broadly with Carolina. If you can get things right the first time, fantastic. But we don't only know what the right thing to do is by making mistakes in the past. So I think we have to be pretty forgiving that perhaps, before you go through it, maybe you don't understand what the right way is. And there's going to be a degree of mistakes in the past. It's important to accept those, but apply them to your future thinking, right? Because there's no way you'll ever get it perfect first time, right? So we have to be forgiving to tech teams and security teams about what happened in the past.
Yeah, I agree. So Will, if you try to describe, the typical day, how it looks like for you and how you work with your security and dev counterparts, like what are the friction points when you look at as it relates to security, and what do you think should be improved?
Yeah, thank you. So for me, my typical day involve working closely with my security peers, colleagues, to improve our overall security posture. Yeah. However, one of the common friction points that we've seen is some of us are more risk avoidance, and we prefer the traditional security method. Don't call us, we call you. And other, we are more advocating for a modern approach. Using policy as code, automation, improving the security posture with the developer. So I spend a significant portion of my time educating, advocating for this solution, and also demonstrating that if we empower developers, streamline security processes, we can ultimately create a more secure environment without sacrificing the business agility or innovation that we all require. So this is it. This is my typical day.
Yeah. It's I think that's exactly the things where almost all of us feel. And Anil, like when you think about how can security teams help developers do their jobs better? What does a successful dev and security collaboration look like?
I always put the onus on security, right? It's our job to gain an understanding of how developers are approaching development, how they're delivering services, understanding the product lines that they work within, understanding the terminology they use, and then real detail, technical detail about how they go about doing what they do, right? Generally speaking, it's just over other professions in the corporation, I trust developers far more with security than other areas of the business. So it is more about getting to know what they're doing, how they do it, and then thinking about how security applies to their day-to-day lives.
Yeah. It's I mean, it's easier said than done. Like it's hard because like each team cares about different things, right? They have different priorities. Eventually, as a security, you don't want to keep chasing people. It's just annoying. And as a developer, you don't like to be chased all the time.
I always say, the hardest thing in security is selling security. It's It's getting that buy-in.
Yeah, it's getting the buy-in. I agree. It's, by the way, it's not only in security, like it's in everything, right? It's just like we have we're working now in federal environment, so we need everyone to support the federal environment, which is different from the regular environment, right? So I'm not trying to get buy-in from that. So that's not security. That's like it's all about buy-in, right? But we need security to be a buy-in that everyone has out of the box, because we cannot allow it to be forgotten because it's transparent, right? Unlike other things that the customer will shout on you, hey, it's not working. Who is going to shout on security is not working? So Will, how do you see that?
I mean, I will second what Anil just said, and also we also need to see that security team. We are here to empower developer by shifting from the traditional gatekeeper role that we've got to a more collaborative. That's why in the beginning I said partnership. And at Barclays, we are advocating for a shift left approach when we strongly see as I would say the word I'm looking for, a foundation to empower developer to build secure code faster. And we believe that if we invest in the shift left, like a real shift left, we will make things easy and we will give them an opportunity to catch issues sooner, less costly, and more importantly, let them focus on their own innovation. So that's what I think. So whatever Anil just said, yes, thumbs up, and plus like this kind of like partnership together.
Yes, I agree. So Caroline, like when we look at, we want to do a change, right? So we can roll out new system, but it's not just about that, right? It's also a lot about cultural shifts and doing things really differently. Did you witness that? Like, how can you help influence these kind of like, changes in perception?
Yeah. I think a lot of it has to do with an organization's culture and how aligned folks are kind of from top to bottom. I think that if a development team is going in one direction and security is going in a different direction, there's going to be problems. Now, it's much easier said than done to try and get both teams on the same page. But ideally, both teams are actually able to get quite specific about what outcomes they're trying to achieve, both when it comes to risk management as well as otherwise. Everything in business, everything in technology involves trade-offs. And this is where I think the magic happens. For an organization to have the correct balance of focus and direction, at the same time, freedom and flexibility, this really is where I think leadership comes into play. And I think what both security as well as development leaders can do is they can really focus on two things. One, what's the data that they have available and how can they use that to make an educated decision? And number two, what's going to be strategically aligned with the direction the company is heading?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, you talk about the data. Actually, I think, I like to compare security to, now we have FinOps teams, right? I mean, developers, they want to develop, right? But they have to report the security. They also have to report to FinOps, right? They can't spend too much money. The only difference between security and FinOps is that the FinOps have a good data. There's really good metrics, right? And in security, it's very hard to say what's your actual risk, right? And give it a metric that actually everyone trusts, right? I mean, because if you had that, then it's this like it's a cultural shift, but also perception shift. You own your finance, you own your security budget, right? Security budget, security risk budget, right? And if we could change that perception, then it changes the game. It's about data, it's about metrics. So it's also about perception of I own my budget. It's my budget.
That's right.
Yeah.
So we're switching gears a bit to talk about systems and processes because it's together, right? Have you found ways to integrate security into dev pipelines that in a way that actually works? Do you have any tips or best practices? Because everyone speak about shift left, right? But does it actually work in practice?
So I mean, this is spot on, and thanks. I mean, we all agree that build secure software. This is important that we start checking early. You're like shift left, and what we want to give the developer is this kind of consistent user experience when it comes to vulnerability discovery, regardless where the scan is happening. Shift left or using security gates embedded in the enterprise toolchain, regardless. What we didn't want to have is you're giving them a way to scan locally. Okay, they're fixing it. They put that in the pipeline, and you're using another software or another tool which says something completely different. And I think to reuse what Anil said earlier, this is this kind of like a partnership, like language. So this is what we found, which was working, is to making sure that we could use a unified experience when it comes to parity. And to achieve that, no magic way. We were to have the two teams working together as one team. And this is what we have been doing. We've been working as partnership, two teams with the developer community, making sure whatever tool we have decided to use, they can achieve the same parity when it comes to vulnerability. So shift left, great, but also we want to give you the opportunity to say whatever you've been spending your time to fix actually has passed the pipeline too. So this is it.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Like it's a single policy across the stack, single engine across the stack, and also single exception process across the stack. Come on, I got exception on this vulnerability. Why are you chasing me again in production? I mean, that's like and this is all part of what we talked about before. Like the ability for us to gain trust is also to give developers a process that actually makes sense, right? So like shift left is really, if you think about it, it's not really just shift left. Let's forget about everything in the right. No, because then the process is broken, and then like you don't have a really way to say, you know what, I did it in the left because I wanted to save my time. Not that you chased me twice. That's actually that's actually a good use of my time, shifting left, and I also get notifications from the other tools on the right. And that's a really good point. So Anil, we often hear that the development and security are speaking in different languages. I mean, we just talked about like how important it is to try and change that, right? Because they lack terminology, they speak in different languages, right? And they trying to get to the root cause and the importance of things, and they just they speak over each other. Do you see any practical ways to change that?
Yeah, and I think my views sort of spread across not only development but other parts of the business, right? It is down to security to understand the business area and the language that they're comfortable with. So if I'm talking to finance, there's a certain way to talk. If I'm talking to someone in operations, a certain way to talk. Same thing for development. I'm not a big fan of adopting security terminology that's only known within the security profession. I much prefer understanding the terminology and technical aspects that developers work with day to day. And it's for me and the security team to understand how we use that language to push security and come to a common understanding. And to be honest, I'm very fortunate that I work with a lot of gifted developers who spend the time helping me pick up the language and understanding, which makes my life easier in terms of translating it back.
Yeah. So they actually care, and they actually give you actual answers, and
it's so about being able to talk on the same level, generally speaking, or wanting to do the right thing. And then I think Caroline didn't quite say it directly, but sometimes it's about compromise. Sometimes you come to decisions collectively. That's the most important thing, that they're together. They might not be what you intended from the beginning, but they step us forward. And that's the important thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I agree. And Caroline, do you have a perspective on this?
I think that sometimes security people think they know what is best, but they don't have all the information. Mm-hmm. And the people who have all the information about software development are the developers. And so there's an opportunity for security to approach development with questions. to approach development not with an instruction, not with a demand, but rather, here's a problem for us to solve together. What do you think about it? Because sometimes what the security person needs solved, the developer actually has the best solution. The security person does not, because they are lacking the context.
Yeah. And I actually think like that's the beauty. Actually, no one has the full knowledge, right? They actually have to share, and a lot of I think where the systems, the tools come into play is they need to be able to understand everything and give every person the information that's missing for them. Because otherwise it's just really hard. And so, any final advice that you'd like to share for those that are working to build bridges between dev and security team? And I think that's the big question. So I'd like to hear from everyone. Any advice do you have for the crowd?
The same thing I say to my team: human first, security professional second.
It's hard to go after this one, so I'll second this. Yeah, whatever comments say. Yeah, this is it. Yeah, partnership and work together.
Yeah, mine is Noah and I are actually having a bit of a chat, at the same time as our panel. And one of the questions is, how do you help developers understand the security things? And I think that what I come across often is the security person says, this bad thing will happen. And the developer says, no, it won't. And actually, the way to bridge that is to demonstrate using data. So there are two particular data points that I think can be very useful in a situation like this. One of them is incident response. What incidents have actually occurred?
Yes.
Because this is for real something that actually happened. And then the second is the findings from a manual penetration test. Because I think that developers care about what's real. They don't care about what's theoretical. And so demonstrating the ability to exploit can actually just like cut through some of that.
I love it. I mean, honestly, for me, the ability to, if I look at the tool, like for me, the goal always was to take something the developer needs to do and show them proof. Hey, I can actually take down your system now, right? And the pen tester does it best because they give you the actual evidence. And I think that if you can give developers evidence for, hey, you have 40 gigabytes exposed here. Here, I have print screens, right? Like there is no one that's gonna say, no, I don't care about that. And if they say that, then that's not a good company. But most companies, the problem is that developers actually don't think security teams and the tools actually know it's actually, they feel they don't know. As you said, like bring them proof. You have the burden of proof is on you, the security team, to show me it's actually there is an incident. And I think that if a tool can help you bring the proof, then it saves you a lot of arguments, because then you're right. And I agree with you, and 100%. And I think like also like if I look internally in Wiz, right? Just trying to see, we call it Wiz for Wiz, right? What are the things that help us the most? So again, for us it's a bit different, because what helps me the most, we're a security company, so everyone think about security. But what helps me the most is actually, because it's Wiz for Wiz, we actually ask the developers to use our own tools, right? They feel empowered, right? So it's really always about getting the developers to feel it's important, not just because, security is important. Also, if I do it, I should do it. I need to do it. Like, I'm supposed to do it. I'm not expecting someone to tell me what to do. I'm supposed to do it. I can get advice from someone if I'm not sure, right? I'm supposed to own it. I'm supposed to be the one that does things securely, and I'm the one that will be blamed if it's not secure, right? I am the owner, right? And they need to feel it. I am the owner. I own it. No one else, right? And basically, it's changing the security team responsibility to be they guide you, right? They guide you, but you own it. And so we have a few more minutes. So let's look at the questions that we have in the Q&A. So I'll read it, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. So how do you handle a dev team request to grant exemptions to security policies. Let's say during a POV, because it's short term and so on, right? So exemptions, obviously, we all are the guardians of the power to provide exceptions. If we don't provide exceptions, they hate us. So again, we are the bad guys. So maybe the question from my perspective is, how do you handle it? And also, how do you make sure you're not becoming the bad guy in the story?
I'd happily pick this one up. Generally speaking, I make a note at many of our company all hands, right? I expect people not only to come talk to us about whether they need help, but I expect people to come to us and complain about security. I want to hear complaints all day, every day, right? Just so we have an opportunity to have a logical conversation about something. So it all depends on what it is, right? If there's something that's perhaps a legacy security control that exists and it doesn't really reduce risk, then of course, yeah, I mean, forget the exception, we'll change the policy, right? If it's something where it's a bit higher risk, but it allows the business to do something quickly and we look at it again in 3 to 4 months, then that's also good. I mean, and obviously there'll be exceptions where you just think, well, it's never going to happen, unfortunately, and you have to say no.
Yeah. But again, being the bad guy is a trap, okay? Because once you're considered the bad guy, there's no way back. Yeah. Kurt and Will, like, what do you think about it? Like, it's really, I don't know, like, it's a hard problem.
I mean, just to jump on what sorry, Calvin, to cut you. Just jump on what Anil mentioned. This is something we recently put in place when, we're kind of partnering with the developer community. So when they have like a new tool like POV, POC, anything, we are trying to make it together. So we are no longer in this kind of blame game saying, you know what, I couldn't demonstrate because everything is solved. So yeah. This is and how many times we've seen this kind of like all right, you can do it in the lab, so you have no real data, no value, and say, so what have you seen? Nothing, because they put me in a place when there is not real data. So now we're trying to change the focus when we actually consuming real data, so that we can see the power of it. So, because honestly, and Caroline, just repeating what you said, is like they are the one making the value. We are here to make it sure that we make it secure, but we are not here to say no to the business. We are here to help the business to accomplish their goal and their innovation. So yeah, sorry, that's what I wanted to say to second what I did.
Ami, the way to avoid becoming the bad guy is for your policy to align with the actual practice. So there is a culture that is defined in the policy. And if you write the policy and it does not match the practice, you will always be the bad guy. I think there's an opportunity for security to actually write the policy as close as possible to the actual practice of developers, in which case you will generate fewer exceptions, but the exceptions that occur should be paid a great amount of attention to.
Yeah. And it's all about paying attention, right? I mean, because you say, okay, it's an exception, but I see I have a lot of exceptions for POV. Maybe I created a whole different environment for POV. I'm trying to specifically, you need real data. I mean, it's all about really understanding what is the need, understanding how we operate, and then really finding ways to make it happen. It's not easy. It's easy to say, let's work together. In reality, these are real problems, hard problems to solve. Like a POV, this is a good question. It's really hard. You need real data. I know it from Wiz. If you don't have real data, it's not interesting, right? But if it's real data, and it's just a pilot, I'm risking my data, right? So that's a hard problem to solve. So we're coming at time. I want to thank this amazing panel team for the discussion. This is such an important topic for everyone in security. So thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, guys.